factories. Now the factories, as I described earlier, will be anywhere from a manufacturing factory where they make everything in-house, to the assembly factory, or merely just a trading company where they pass things on. Trading companies are rife in the carbon fibre business. You'll have hundreds of people who claim their factories, especially on eBay, and actually all they do is they rent an office in an actual factory, pretend it's theirs, and then just ship the goods on. So you can go and visit them, but actually they don't have anything to do with the manufacturing process, which can lead to all sorts of problems down the road. I won't go into that this time. So, factories. There are lots and lots of very, very specialist factories. They are concentrated around Taiwan, and a lot of the factories which are in Cambodia and other low-cost areas tend to be owned by Taiwanese companies, and they've just expanded out to make the costs go down because of cost of living and the cost of employment in these various countries. Now, it's a bit of fallacy to say that Asia is super cheap. It's not actually. It's quite expensive now, which is why there's all this sort of change in the world and people reshoring production, because Asia is actually quite expensive. Taiwan is not a third world country. Taiwan is a very advanced, very nice. I quite like the place. I go there all the time. We have lots of good friends and lots of good partners over there. So forget about the misconception that it's cheap slave labour. Never seen slave labour. It doesn't happen in the bike industry from what I've seen. Obviously, if you go to the sort of ropier countries, I don't get involved in that. I only deal with the top tier stuff. So these factories, they specialise in making one or two things. So if you're a pedal factory, you just make pedals and you get very good at it. So then you can drive your costs down through efficiencies of scale and experience and specialist equipment just to make pedals. And that's how they can make all this stuff for what is a very small price. Bear in mind that it's not a consumable, it's not a cookie cutter stamp part. You're asking for super high tech parts, which when you look at actually physically how much they cost to make, made out of the highest quality materials, carbon fibre, aerospace grade alloys, these sort of things, titanium bolts, they are crazy cheap. Apart from the automotive industry, which is based around huge volume production of the same thing effectively, the bike industry changes every year. The quality of the materials and the technicality of the parts are very high. The volumes are actually quite low for a manufacturer. So I'm surprised actually how cheap things get, but that's because these big factories specialise and get the cost right down. They're good factories, there are bad factories, but my main issue with the factories in Asia at the moment, 10 years ago this wasn't a problem. 10 years ago you could get things made in 30 days. Now the lead times are going up and up and up, and I think the reason for this is a lot of politics in the background, but one of the main reasons is that the cost of living and the cost of wages has risen so much. Taiwan is no longer cheap. It's not far behind the UK in the sort of cost of wages in the sort of grand scheme of things. Because of all this, they haven't invested in new equipment, new machines, new efficiency as fast as they should have done, so the lead times are just mounting up. And I don't know, maybe hoping things are going to get better. But the problem for me as a importer who was buying goods and rebranding and selling on was that I went from 30-day lead times to 7-month lead time. So I'm buying almost a year in advance, and I'm going to fund a year in advance on let's have a think about what people might buy, and then people get upset when you don't have anything in stock instantly. These things can't be just manufactured overnight. And that when the lead times are 6-7 months, causes big friction and big problems. Which is one of the big reasons why we brought the majority of the production back in-house, so we can be in control of this. Quality has never really been an issue. The quality of the sort of top-tier manufacturers which we would use in Taiwan has always been very, very good. Main issues is just logistics. Just the logistics and the lead times have always been a big problem with factories. Obviously, the big companies have to rely on these factories to manufacture things, they don't do it in-house. So this is why there's a lot more issues with supply and demand and pricing and model years and all this extra stuff which I'll come on to later. But basically the factories are a key component of the entire mix of the bike industry, everything from assembly factory to a manufacturer to all the subbies which are sort of below them who manufacture nuts and bolts and parts and CNC assemblies and forgings and anodizing, paint, decal, all this stuff is a huge industry. It's not simple as just turn the machine on, press go and you've got your finished part. There's a huge amount of parts go into it, so it's quite a complex little thing inside of the factories.